Good evening and happy Friday. This is Shayna from the Trade Exchange, and we are in the midst of earnings season. Before we even get into that, we always talk about Amazon and the impact it has on so many sectors across the board. And this week, they had a huge impact, not just on pharmaceutical companies, but on pharmacies themselves. Take a look at the next couple stock charts to see exactly what I'm talking about. This is Walgreens. Then, take a look at Fred's Inc., it's also known as Fred's Pharmacy. Next, CVS, take a look at that. If I showed you Costco, if I showed you Express Scripts, they'd all look the same. So what's going on? Well, you remember a couple weeks ago we spoke about Amazon wanting to possibly start selling pharmaceutical drugs, and we saw a lot of value being taken out of Rite Aid, Costco, CVS, Walgreens, across the board. Well, yesterday they made their first big step in that direction when it came out with the announcement that they have actually gained wholesale pharmacy licenses in multiple states. So this is the first big move they've actually made to entering that market, and with that we saw all these companies across the boards get slashed. So big news for Amazon, but they're doing something right, because if you take a look at their stock chart, look how much Amazon is up, over 13%. Now, they released their earnings yesterday and they blew expectations out of the water. Their earnings per share, they were expected to gain just 2 cents. They gained 52 cents. Their revenues rose 34%. Their expectations were 41, about 58 billion, and they came in at 43, about 47 billion. And on top of that, they rose their guidance. So Amazon is definitely doing something right. Their stock price closed at the highest it's ever been, closing out above 1100. So they're doing phenomenal. However, on not such a good note, let's talk about biotechs, because they didn't have such a great week. Now this is the IBB, so this is the biotech ETF, and it's down about 4.5% this week. Now one company that really contributed to this being down so much was CELG, and this is something we didn't expect. So CELG's stock price dropped 18% on Thursday. Now this came after earnings, and weaker sales were announced of their top drug Revlimid. Then they slashed their 2020 guidance, and their stock price again dropped 18%, which is the most it's dropped in 17 years. So this was a really big drop for CELG. You can imagine a company as big as them, it's going to impact other companies in that sector, and it certainly did, as you see with the IBB being down 4.5%. However, on the flip side, take a look at Aetna, because Aetna is actually up 7% this week, and this is on a story that was circulating that CVS made over a $66 billion bid for Aetna. Now that would come out to over $200 per share, so with that, Aetna's price is up over 7%. Now, why would CVS do that? Well, it's, of course, circulating that it's due to the fact that Amazon could be entering the industry. And if they were to acquire Aetna, that would give them a lot of leverage when it comes to price negotiations with drug makers. So, of course, a deal like this, to tie up these two companies in that sort of way, would bring a lot of antitrust scrutiny. So it remains to be seen if it could even be done or if it would even be allowed. However, in the meantime, Aetna nor CVS did comment publicly on it. But Aetna is up 7% on the news. And look at Overstock. So this is something completely different, but maybe it's time we slowly start talking about Bitcoins, because they're coming up more and more often in conversation. Now Overstock is up 17% this week, and they're actually up 130% this year. Keep in mind, Overstock was the first retailer to accept Bitcoins. What else is the talk going on? Well, we saw a lot of call activity, and then came out the talk that they actually want to start and have their own initial coin offering, also known as an ICO. So if they had an ICO, analysts are predicting that they could generate between $200 to $500 million. With that, D.A. Davidson raised their price target to $57 from just $36. So again, this is something that would be really big for Overstock, and it'd be really interesting to see what an ICO offering from Overstock could bring in. So it'll be something that we'll definitely be watching. Looking at oil had a fabulous week. It's actually up over 4% this week. So the Baker Hughes numbers came in. The total rig count is down 4 at 909. The oil rig count, it was up, but only 1. It came in at 737. So why is oil up over 4%? Well, it's on the news and speculation that this OPEC deal that's in place right now could be extended till the end of 2018. So the OPEC deal, keep in mind, it was a deal that was created nearly a year ago, and it was to cut 1.8 million barrels per day. And it was between OPEC nations and 10 non-OPEC nations who are really being led by Russia. And the deal was initially was a 6-month term. Well, then in May of 2017, they ended up extending it another 9 months. It brings it to March of 2018. And now there's speculation it could actually go another 9 months following that to the end of 2018. So this comes after comments from Russian President Vladimir Putin saying that, it's too soon to make a decision now. And this was earlier this month he said that, but he said Possibly he would consider extending cuts to the end of 2018. And then on Thursday, we saw over a 1% boost in oil, was when the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said that the top oil exporters should consider extending production cuts. So with that came the speculation that indeed come March of 2018, it may be extended until the end. And with that, again, oil's up over 4%. Taking a look last but not least at our indices, we had a great week for the markets. The Dow closed up spot 45%. It closed out 23,434. The S&Ps closed up spot 23%, closing out 2581. The Nasdaq closed up 1 spot 08% this week, closing out 6701. And gold closed down spot 54% this week, closing out 1274.60. Now, the VIX, there was some volatility this week, but it did come back down. It closed out 9 spot 8. We have big news coming next week because the White House did indeed confirm that they are going to be announcing the Fed chair next week. So it's something that was mentioned last week to happen this week, but again, it didn't, and they did confirm today that it will be next week. Also overseas, there was a lot of news going on with Catalonia in Spain, and earlier in the day, the Catalonian parliament did vote to establish an independent republic. However, the Prime Minister of Spain, Rajoy, said that it was invalid, and he actually fired the Catalonian government and dissolved the parliament, and saying new elections will be held in December. So some pretty big news happening overseas. Earnings season is going to continue. It continues into next week as well. So we have another very busy week coming up. It's been a busy week, but I do look forward to joining you next week as we continue into earnings season. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend.